Hi, I'm Ms. MMyers, and this is my on-call notebook. The first thing I'll show you is my cultural appropriateness statement. I tried to choose activities for this notebook that have a wide range of appeal and do not highlight one culture or ethnicity over another. I looked for activities that could be easily adapted to meet a patient's pre-injury educational level, culture, religious background, setting, whether it's rural, urban, or suburban, income and socioeconomic levels. These activities could also be easily adapted to reflect language differences and a variety of experiences and interests. I'd strive to make sure I did not utilize materials that would be insulting or demeaning to any person for whatever the reason. For example, if a patient were to say they do not play cards for religious reasons, I would not use activities that involve card playing. Being culturally aware is an important aspect of the job of an SLP in a rehab setting, as you see a wide variety of patients with dramatically varying needs. As a clinician, it's important to respect the culture of the client, understand or at least be aware of their background, and do the best you can to respect those differences. The client who feels disrespected by the clinician is one who's unlikely to develop a good relationship with that clinician, and consequently may struggle to connect and make an effective therapy team, potentially slowing the rehab process. So my first section I'm going to talk about is memory. And my activities for the severely impaired patient are flagged with a pink sticky. And I'm starting with memory for pictured objects, using just two objects that should be pretty familiar to most patients, and then having them look on a second page to find those two objects. I've included a find the word that does not belong with the others, explain your answer, some orientation questions, filling in the appropriate category, answering recent fact questions, reading a paragraph, hiding the paragraph, and then answering some questions about that paragraph, looking at a picture and recalling information from that scene. I included the memory training handout from lecture, two of those, with several different activities, points to remember and think about regarding memory. I did some general temporal environment questions. Did some past event questioning, and finally including a game like Simon to improve memory of sequence. And the assessment that I looked at, that I opted to put in this memory section, is the RIPA 2. One thing I noticed is that, and through conversation with my supervisors at my placement, is that a lot of these assessments assess different areas. So they can be moved around somewhat interchangeably, but there's a lot of memory information in the RIPA 2. Alright, the next section I'm going to do, and I'm going to take these activities out of my notebook because it's easier than me sliding my page around and driving you nuts. My next section is language and communication. So I looked at my flagged activity for the severely impaired patient is to provide the patient with a common everyday object, such as a comb, a toothbrush, a cup, a spoon, whatever, and ask a patient, what do you do with this? Keeping in mind that the patient may need a reminder as to what the object is, the clinician may have to provide visual or verbal cues to guide the patient in answering the questions. I included matching words that differ orthographically, reading road signs activity, an oral reading activity with some words with some emotional value, idiom interpretations, an activity where the client is asked to follow the instructions below, decorating this gingerbread man, comprehension of instructions, a general recipe. So if the client is able to handle some basic cooking, perhaps making some cookies, following directions. Here's another, following specific directions, unfolding a sheet of paper and doing several things with that paper. As I cross out the item that does not belong with the other, and just some following general written directions. Here's a following and giving directions worksheet, and that should be my 10. For my evaluation, I included the Boston, as that has a lot of stuff about language in it. Moving on to visuospatial activities. This section, I start with an activity for my flagged activity is patterning, starting with a basic A-B pattern. This can use wooden beads, pony beads, jewelry, craft beads, whatever your client's interested in, whatever they can physically handle. But for the severely impaired patient, it may be the wooden beads. And it could be stringing them or just recreating that pattern on a tabletop or a pattern board. This activity can also be done with Legos if they're interested in that, or blocks, depending on the age of the client and what they might be willing to mess with and use. And this can be adapted for a less involved or less impaired client by using more sophisticated patterns such as ABA, ABC, so on. My next activity that I'm including in this is a picture completion activity where they need to finish the picture. I'm including completing clocks and setting the time activity, and a couple of those drawing clocks. I included some visuospatial games like Take 5, Connect 4, making the box games. I included a map reading activity. Like here's a mall map with several different descriptions of the stores, and then some questions to be asked about that at different levels of questioning skills. I have a trail making activity in here. This one's a pretty simple one. There's much more advanced. This activity has the client counting the number of boxes and putting that number, writing a number in each box, and then writing the number below it, the total number of boxes below it. My next activity has them tracing a line from one side, from the start, from the left to the right. And actually this activity has them copying a letter at the end of the line. The next one is similar to a trail making. Read the word to the left and then connect the letters to create that word, to spell that word. So more sophisticated, smaller, complete the drawing so it's exactly the same. The one on the left and the one on the right are exactly the same. This one has the client moving from left to right, putting an X on the solid colored circles. My supervisors kept talking about at this one, this is a really good way to work on left neglect and some of those kind of vision things. And this last one activity is mazes, working out how to get from the start to the finish of the maze. I I put the Burns Right Hemisphere Inventory as my assessment for this section. There is a lot of visuospatial skills that are looked at in this activity, or in this inventory. My next activity, our cognitive domain, is attention. So my first activity is my flagged activity, and it's using playing cards. My supervisors keep talking about the wide variety of ways to use playing cards in therapy. And for the most impaired client, sorting the cards by color is the easiest way to do it. The easiest activity. Then you can make it harder, sorting by suit, sorting by cards by number, and face cards. I included a task-oriented training selective attention, a line cancellation task, trail making. Again, have to keep on track. There's a lot of numbers in this one, numbering from 1 to 20. This is in organizing shapes, numbers, events. This is mainly numbers, letters, days of the week. Following directions, spatial relation, draw a ball, put it in the box, under the box, on the box, beside the box. I included a complete the scene. This one's a winter scene. Another game. This is also a card game called Out. Listening for specific words in a sentence, having them pull out the 2 words. Selecting important information. Clarifying messages. Finding out having the client tell me what else do we need to know. Here's some general attention tasks. There's actually 5 of them on this page. And a variety of levels. And I also included some additional games, card games, word games, board games, puzzles, and a variety of other activities. And for my evaluation tool, in this one I included the R-bands assessment. It does a lot of attention, following, staying on track, attending to the activity in this assessment. And my last section that I chose to work on was executive function. And this one, I start with my flagged activity, is looking at having the client look at a picture and asking them what happens next. Then I have a series of 4 potential answers. What happens next? And the client just needs to point to it, or if they can tell me, they tell me. I included a series of deduction puzzles, providing solutions to situations, determining the order something is done in. So, for example, changing a light bulb, number the steps. Inferences. I included some inference work, some more game-type activities that are reasoning and using executive functioning, charades, personal facts, 20 questions, and other games. I have another similar to my very first activity, but this one asking the client, what are 2 things you could do to fix this problem? Identifying critical information. So what do I have to know? Making inferences from related statements. So this gives a few sentences, and then asking the question, oftentimes, why? I'm giving the underlying messages, and I included in this one the MOCA as part of my executive functioning assessment. Like I said before, all of these assessments have different, they cover all different domains, some more than others. So they're somewhat interchangeable. Alright, my article section, prevention articles. I looked at some more journal type articles. I looked at, and actually I think I have 6 in here. But I have an article about the post-operative cognitive decline and what can be done medically, post-operatively, to help their clients not see that cognitive decline after having surgery. This one is prevention of post-stroke cognitive decline, and it looks at multiple lifestyle interventions. I have evaluation of facilitative factors for preventing cognitive decline, and that's a 3-year cohort study of community interventions. Art therapy and music therapy activities as a prevention of cognitive decline. I thought that was interesting. I have an interest in music and how music therapy can be used in all kinds of ways. Adherence to a Mediterranean-style diet that can slow the rate of cognitive decline and decrease the risk of dementia. And this is just a review of whether or not, changing your diet does make a difference. And finally, because I'm really interested in hearing loss and how it affects you, the person holistically, I found the article about cognitive decline and hearing health care for older adults. So that's my on-call notebook. I've got hard copies of everything if you need it. Thank you.